Okay, good morning. I am calling to order the Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education Committee meeting on Wednesday, March 27th, 2024 at 9:04 a.m. I'm Susan Yankee. I'm the chair as well as a parent member. During this meeting, please say your name, who you are before speaking, and we will be using many acronyms. Okay, two that we often use are the SAC, which is us, the Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education, and CSDE, which is the Connecticut State Department of Education. So remember, if you use an acronym, please, I forget sometimes, just please try to explain what it is quickly during the meeting. Next, we go to council purpose and function. So the SAC brings together the CSDE, educators and related service providers. Thank you for putting that slide up. Service providers, administrators, legislators, parents, as well as students and persons with disabilities, all dedicated to supporting the education of students with disabilities. Through these meetings, our priorities and recommendations for the CSDE and the Connecticut General Assembly are formed. You can find more information on the Connecticut State Department of Education website, along with our past meeting videos, minutes, and our annual reports. So, introduction and roles. Good morning, everybody. So as I call your name, please introduce yourself and your role on this council. I see Missy.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Missy Wrigley, and I am here as a parent.
Thank you, Missy.
Of a young man in 7th grade.
Thank you so much, Missy. Jennifer?
Good morning, Jennifer Lucier. I'm a parent stakeholder.
Brian? Brian K.
Morning. I was just checking to make sure our other Brian wasn't on the line. Good morning, everyone. Brian Klimkowitz. I'm the Special Education Division Director at the State Department of Education.
Hey, thank you so much. Josh?
Hello, I'm Josh Martin. I'm Director of Pupil Services with East Haddam, and I'm representing CONCASE.
Thank you. Nachi?
Thank you, Susan. Good morning, everybody. Nachi Bhatt, representing Children in Care, Department of Children and Families.
Thank you. Jane?
Hi, everybody. Jane Hampton with the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, and I represent the families that call our center.
Thank you. Denise?
Morning, I'm Denise Drummond. I'm with the Commission on Women, Children, Seniors, Equity, and Opportunity, and I'm also a parent.
Thank you so much. Allison? Oh, we can't hear you, Allison.
How about now?
A little bit better.
In the office today. So I represent BRS.
Okay. Yes. Your speaker is a little off. It's cutting in and out. Okay, but we heard, yeah, you represent BRS. Thank you so much. Tom?
Yeah, good morning, Tom Kosker, representing Disability Rights Connecticut. I'm also a parent of a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Thank you so much. Jeffrey?
Yes, Jeffrey Spar, parent stakeholder, also the chairman of the Legislative Committee.
Thank you so much. Sean?
Good morning. I'm Sean Cronin. I work with Brian at the Connecticut State Department of Education.
Thank you so much. Mary Beth?
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Bruder. I'm at the University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities at UConn Health, but I'm also on faculty at the NEAG School of Education, so I represent higher education.
Thank you so much. Lori?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lori Fortuna, and I'm a parent stakeholder.
Thank you so much. Dimpy?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dimpy Malvania, and I'm here as a parent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kimberly?
Hi, I'm Kim Williamson, and I represent speech language pathologists.
Thank you. Lena?
Good morning, everybody. Lena Esposito from Connecticut Family Support Network, and I'm a bilingual family coordinator for the South Central region. Thank you.
Thank you. Lewis?
Good morning, Louis Talarita, Connecticut State Department of Education. I'm an education consultant here at the agency, and I work with the McKinney-Vento Education of Homeless Children and Youth Program.
Thank you so much. Anna? Okay. Anna,
Good morning. Yeah.
Yay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My connection is a little bit bad. I apologize. I'm in a car. I'm Anna Wittig. I am a chief administrator for Oak Hill School, and I represent state-approved private special education facilities.
Wonderful. And Jolie?
Hi, Jolie Medina, support staff to the SAC and assistant to Brian at the CSDE.
Great. Did I get all the members of the council? I believe I've gotten everybody. Wonderful. Okay, great. So next we have is public comment. So I see we have a couple of people online for public comment. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You have 3 minutes. And as a council, we can only listen. We really can't respond, but we're going to take into consideration your comments at a later date if needed. And after your public comment, you are welcome to stay and watch the rest of the meeting. We just would appreciate it if you would turn your video and sound off after your public comment. So thank you. Let's see. Can we start? Michelle Fitzgerald, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Hello. Good morning. So hi, everyone. My name is Michelle. I am the mother of 4 school-aged children, 2 with an ASD, autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. Their ages 18 years old and 5 years old. My youngest has an IEP, and my oldest has a 504 plan. And 2 who are neurotypical, ages 14 and 8 years old. We have lived in our town in Connecticut for over 10 years and thoroughly enjoy our community and school system within our district. Sadly, on Friday, March 8th of 2024, our town received a threat of violence by means of bombs and a live active shooting. And not only in our schools, but also to the private homes of Board of Education members, town officials, as well as the town buildings. In response to this threat, our school and our town completely shut down to ensure the safety of our community. As a parent of children who attend 2 or 3 schools, 2 of the 3 schools in our district, I made the decision to keep my children home on that Monday after Friday's threat. I had thoughtful conversations regarding the safety in schools with my 2 older children to ensure they felt comfortable engaging in their safety plan as practiced throughout the school year. It was then that I realized that this conversation would be an impossibility with my youngest child. My sweet and silly 5-year-old boy has severe maladaptive behaviors, self-injurious behaviors, sensory processing integration disorder. He does not respond to questions or engage in conversation despite having a language and communication plan at school and is part of his IEP. He elopes and has no sense of danger or urgency, and it is my understanding based on his needs that he could not possibly remain safe during an attack should one tragically ever occur. It was then that I realized that if my child requires an all-communication approach and multiple prompts to complete a non-preferred activity, how could he and his assigned paraprofessional remain safe, let alone live through a tragedy such as the threat we received? I searched through his IEP for answers and expressed my concerns during his PPT last week and was met with a vague response, no real concrete answer. No parent should be consumed with worry over whether a plan exists and what that plan entails and where to find that plan should questions arise. The IEP is my child's go-to document when questions come up, goals, expectations, objectives, his present levels of performance and progress, but I feel strongly that it should also include their plan for safety during an emergency situation, such as a fire, an active shooter, natural disaster, emergency evacuations, and bomb threats. And any other real type of emergency as outlined by schools to require an emergency plan. I think by including things such as protocols and availability for safe rooms to minimize the sounds, planned routes, built-in repeated practices several times a month instead of the 2 or 3 that we see a year, secure fenced-in areas far away so that children can remain safe and so staff can address the needs of the children in that safe space. And then providing identifying documents, mechanisms for identifying to determine what the child, who the child is, what they may need, and a way to, minimize transitions during panic or sensory overload would be really important. We could appropriately support not just my son in these situations, but hundreds or thousands of other children with behavioral or language challenges who simply just cannot remain safe without an individualized plan to do so. I am urging the participants of this meeting to support my request to ensure that all IEPs moving forward contain a safety and emergency response plan to meet their individual needs, therefore ensuring the safety of not just the children, but also the staff members and faculty assigned to those children as paraprofessionals. No one should have to die simply because there is no plan in place based on their specific level of need. No one should have to die because we fail to cultivate a community and a concrete plan in which every single child and person's life matters. This is more than about access to my son's education. This is about access to life. And there is nothing more valuable to me than that. Thank you for your time and your attention. They are profoundly appreciated.
Michelle, thank you so much. I know how hard it is to speak as a parent and something that you are so passionate about. And we really appreciate you coming here today to talk with us. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Virginia Brown.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm a guest here, so thanks for having me. I'm the staff attorney at the Office of the Child Advocate, and I work primarily on individual and systemic education investigations, including programming, Title IX, language discrimination, and other things. So thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you so much. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So if you are not a member of the council, if you are welcome to stay, if you would just turn off your video and your sound, that would be greatly appreciated. We've had two members come in, Representative Rob McComey and Brian Smith of DDS, which is Department of Developmental Services. Thank you. Welcome for being here today. Next, we have consent agenda, which is our approval of our minutes. The January 24th, 2024 minutes approval needs to be moved to our next meeting because we do not have them yet. That would be the April 24th, 2024 full SAC meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to move the January 24th minutes to that date for approval?
So moved by Missy.
Missy, thank you. Would someone please second it?
I second it.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Was that Dimpy?
Yeah, that was Dimpy. All in favor? Great. Anyone who has to abstain because they were not at the January 24th meeting? I see Allison and Denise. Okay, great. All right, so
I don't think I was there. I'm not sure.
Okay, Representative Comey. Okay.
Oh, actually, I was in January, not February. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get you on the next minutes. So we have approved the moving of the January 24th, 2024 meeting minutes to the April 24th, 2024 full SAC meeting. Wonderful. Next, we have the February 28th, 2024 full SAC meeting minutes need to be approved. Are there any corrections? Because I have a few. Does anybody else have any? Okay, Jolie, just some quick ones. It says absent. It just says Talia Rita. If you could add Lewis, his first name to that.
Got it after I sent the minutes out, and I also changed. I think your copy may say in-person guest, and it should have been online.
Okay. Oh, you mean public comment? I believe it says guest instead of guest.
Okay, that's fine. Then that's perfect.
Right, and it's not Senator Curry, it's Representative Curry.
Where do I have?
When you're talking about the speed dating.
Thank you.
Certainly. There was actually ended up being no update for the Special Education Task Force because they did not have a meeting. So if you could just make a note under that. Under Legislative Committee Report, again, it's Representative Curry, not Senator. You good? Because I'm giving you bunches.
I'm good.
Yay. Okay. So, and under Brian K. reviews, slides, Brian, during
okay. Yep.
You see that section? Can you just kind of pop in what slides he was reviewing? That would be greatly appreciated.
I sure will.
Okay. Oh, and I have to zip back right up to public comment. Could you put Lisa Nee's whole name in instead of just Lisa N because she isn't a member of the council? So we can be more specific.
Where is it that you don't have?
Public comment.
I have. Okay, yes, you're talking about the last line. I had her in the first line too, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you so much, Jolie. That's all I have.
Thank you, Susan. Does anyone else?
Yeah, it's a lot. A minute, taking minutes is a big task.
Oh, I got, thank you so much for catching these.
Thank you. And is there anybody else? No? Okay, wonderful. Then we need to move to approving the, would someone make a motion to approve the February 28th, 2024 minutes with corrections?
Yes. So moved.
Jane, would someone please second that?
Second.
Oh, I have so many. It's so wonderful. Mr. Spar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, anyone abstaining who did not attend the meeting?
I did not attend the meeting.
Okay, that's Anna, I believe Representative Comey, Denise, and Allison. Okay, wonderful. I would, all in favor of approving the minutes with corrections, please raise your hand. Okay, the February 28th, 2024 full SAC meeting minutes are now approved. Let's make sure I'm on the right task. Okay, executive committee report. I apologize. This is a relatively, I feel, long one today. So I'm sorry. So executive committee report. So we're trying to find a way to make confirming attendance for committee and full SAC meetings easier. But in the meantime, if you respond when you get the calendar invite, if you would hit the yes, no, maybe button, that would be really helpful. I often forget to do it. I just roll it onto my calendar and forget to do it. In addition, we're investigating using a different format, such as like a Doodle Pro for figuring out members' availability for committee meetings. Jolie is securing our in-person meeting place for April 24th, and we'll finalize that information at our next executive committee meeting on April 3rd. And then we'll get the information out to the full SAC, unless Jolie has it today. No?
Nope.
Okay. All right. I didn't want to overstep. Okay. Thank you so much. I didn't want to say, well, okay.
Nothing secured yet.
Thank you. I know you're working on it. Okay. Don't forget, there still will be a virtual component to the April 24th in-person meeting as usual. So the Special Education Task Force update. So we met on March 19th, and the meeting is on CTN. It's recorded. And we really quickly streamlined what categories we were going to focus on for the findings for the General Assembly. And so I just want to touch a couple of them from the committees, a couple of the main ones, because there were about 3 pages of them. So we have an eligibility subcommittee, and their findings were for increasing the age for categorizing disabilities up to age 8, with the caveat that only in the absence of an identifiable disability such as autism, deaf, hard of hearing, and low vision, and the need for updating eligibility guidelines and tools, as well as implementing statewide training for those new tools. The funding subcommittee found that the cap on excess cost reimbursement grant results in inadequate state support for special education needs. The services subcommittee findings that tier 1 instruction is not always high quality and does not include practices such as universal design for learning, cultural responses, and MTS, which is multi-tiered systems of support. And we also put that the need for universal pre-K was an important finding, just similar to what we had in our SAC annual report. And then the task force formed a subcommittee to create a survey to gather special education information and data from different groups, from school administrators like superintendents to educators, so that then we can take some of these findings and turn them into recommendations with that data backing it up. So, all right, does anyone have any questions? Welcome, Joviana. Anyone? Okay, great. So I would love to discuss, especially since we had Michelle speak about that, Michelle Fitzgerald. I would like to discuss adding an ad hoc student safety and emergencies committee. So according to our bylaws, as chair, I can propose with consent of the council an ad hoc committee as deemed necessary. I don't think I need to read the article that states how to do that, but there's definitely an unmet need for an organized and transparent safety plan for students with disabilities in school emergencies, such as fires or lockdowns. And there's also an unmet safety need for special education teachers, paras, and related staff members. So I would like to introduce the motion to form the ad hoc school safety and emergencies committee and to utilize the special knowledge and expertise of other state or private agencies or individuals for this committee. And that's from our bylaws. So is there a motion to bring this to vote and discussion? Because we need to discuss this.
So moved by Missy.
Anyone to second it?
I will second it.
Dimpy, wonderful. Okay, so there has been, so we're going to debate now. Any thoughts anyone has on forming an ad hoc school safety and emergencies committee and inviting persons with expertise that can advise us? Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. There was in Norwalk, what I started to do was start work with the police department to help train them. So if they pulled over anybody that was on the autism spectrum or anybody with a learning disability, how to handle that, because there might be some sensitivity to things such as the police officer with the revolving lights and the microphones and the whole stuff like that. And then I know that in Norwalk we got involved in the Blue Envelope program, which is if you're somebody on the spectrum and you can put in your registration and insurance in a blue envelope that kind of talks about autism. So if you get pulled over, the police officer knows what he's doing with. So really this interaction between security personnel, et cetera, and the communication with people that might have, highlighted, sensitivities. I think it's just a great idea.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Representative Comey?
Hi, yes, thank you. I think this is a great idea. I'd love to be involved. There is a group, I heard out of Western Connecticut State University that has been working on school safety, consulting and reports and all kinds of things like that. So I'm on their email list, so I'd be happy to forward them to you, Susan,
okay.
To get you we can loop in with those folks, because I know we've used them at the state as a resource before.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Kosker. And Missy, could you keep an eye on the chat for me if anyone says anything in the chat? Thank you. Mr. Kosker.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you. I think it's a great idea. I think it's important, as you said, we engage. There's a lot of people, I think, working on this sort of stuff around the state, from, as Jeff said, police departments, districts, et cetera. I've personally had experiences that were not great, that were similar to our public speaker, public commenter today, personally with my son. So it's something that I know is an issue for me personally, but I have also heard of similar issues, in other districts around the state. So I think it's really good. I think, again, just always keeping an eye on what we can do as a SAC on that issue, right? And what our role is as a SAC, because sometimes we try to get over our skis a little bit and try to do more than we can. But as an advisory council to the State Department, and what can the State Department do in this area, and what we can recommend to them or legislature, so I just wanted to highlight that, because I think in the past I have lost sight of that personally. So I'm reminding myself as well. Thank you.
I agree, definitely. Definitely. Thank you. Dimpy.
I think it's a great idea, because I've had some personal experience as well. I brought the same question that Ms. Fitzgerald discussed today, and it met with, well, how do you think it would look different from rest of the students? There is no separate safety plan in place. And I had so many questions after that, because all the students' needs are different. And when you say that, yes, then you read it in the news that, yes, this district department is working well, this district department has been trained, the police and the first responders has been given blue folders. Well, it needs to be statewide, not the district wide. Something needs to be done statewide. Everybody needs to be trained.
Thank you
And
so
I
much.
would love to be involved in this ad hoc committee if this goes
Mhm.
forward.
If this goes forward. Thank you so much. Josh?
I think it's a great idea as well. I think it would be important to include individuals who are aware of the legislation around safety and security plans for districts and schools. I do know that there are required components within those plans that talk to how to address various special needs and to plan for those. And I would love to be on the committee as well.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much. And Jane?
It sounds like people are pretty much in favor, which I am too. I just want to, I go where Tom went with the role of the council. Every parent can ask for this to be in their kid's IEP if they have a need. So that people shouldn't have wait for guidance or whatever might come down. If you have a kid that can't respond or has difficulty responding to the expectations of a regular lockdown drill or a fire drill or whatever they might, you can have those things in their IEP right now. But I think from Michelle's point is everybody doesn't know that. And districts and district staff don't know that. So how do we help people understand that if you have a child with those kinds of needs, I have an adult child with those kinds of needs. And just to tell you a quick fun anecdote, when he was 3, he was in a pond when they did a drill for getting everybody out of the water so that they could see if they have all their kids and nobody's missing. He extended their 22-second time to 3 minutes and 22 seconds because he wouldn't get out of the water. So he really needed to be worked with to understand the value of that exercise and why they were asking him to get out of the water. Nobody drowned and everybody was okay, but it was a terrible thing to know that my kid held that up for 3 minutes. And somebody could have been underwater during that time. So it's really a vital issue to know when these students have these struggles to make sure that they're taken care of and that they're prepared. So I do just want to tell all the parents here and anybody listening, you can ask for this to be in your IEP now. It's a goal for them to be able to participate effectively in something that's expected for all kids to participate in. But as a state, I agree with Michelle and everybody else. We need to do something to make sure people are informed of this and thinking about it. We shouldn't wait till some disaster happens to make us think about it. So I totally am in favor and would help if I can, whatever we decide.
Thank you. And this ad hoc committee would just inform our priorities and recommendations as our role as a SAC council. Okay. All right. So I need to restate the motion. I would like to form an ad hoc school safety and emergencies committee and to utilize the special knowledge and expertise of other state or private agencies or individuals for this committee. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion to bring this?
I can make a motion.
Favor? Okay. Bring
Yes,
this.
favor. Yeah.
Okay.
Brian,
Okay.
second.
Second. Thank you. Everybody in
Brian
favor?
Smith. Aye.
Oh, great. Is there anyone opposed? No. Okay, great. So abstention? I don't see anything. Great. All right, then the motion of forming an ad hoc school safety and emergencies committee is passed. And if you have interest in being on this committee or someone that you think might have the expertise that this committee could use, you can either raise your hand now if you'd like, or you can just reach out to Jolie and myself in an email if you would just include both of us. And I would also like to get one of our student members involved in this as well. Okay, I think that would be important to have their voice on this. See if there's a way to do that. Okay, great. Where's my paper? Okay, great.
Susan, can I
yes.
just offer a suggestion? If anybody wants to be on the committee, because it's hard in this environment to see hands raised and stuff.
Okay.
If you just put your name in the chat, I will make sure I save the chat and send that to Jolie.
Okay, thank you so much. All right.
Thank you, Missy.
Thank you, Missy. Wonderful. Next, we are going to discuss the Office of the Child Advocate Disability Right Connecticut Joint Investigation Report. So everybody on the council should have received the joint investigation report as well as responses from CSDE, High Road Schools, and Hartford Public Schools. And one of our SAC purposes is to review periodically the laws, regulations, standards, and guidelines pertaining to special education and recommend any changes which the SAC finds necessary. So remember, the SAC is not a governing or accountability board, just like we were discussing a minute ago with the ad hoc safety, but an advisory board for policy guidance with respect to special education and related services. Many of the recommendations of the joint investigation report align with our current SAC priorities, such as restraint and seclusion, and LRE, which is least restrictive environment. And when the restraint and seclusion and the least restrictive environment work groups next meet, we're going to review the joint investigation report and responses in our discussion of unmet needs. And this will be in addition to anything we're already discussing regarding our priorities and recommendations that result from discussions of the full SAC. So if there's anyone who's not on the work groups for LRE or restraint and seclusion and would like to be, please put it in the chat to Missy and specifically say work group, which one or both, or send an email to Jolie and myself. So is there any member that has a question or a comment about this report? Anybody? Wow. Okay. All right. Just please, everybody take the time to read it and read it and the responses. That would be greatly appreciated. Okay. Then we are zipping along. We have a membership committee report, and you unfortunately have to listen to me for a little longer because Catherine is unavailable today to give the report, our chair. So the membership committee meeting on March 22nd didn't have a quorum, so it was a quick work group to review vacancies. So we're still in need of a representative for the Department of Corrections. It's been a while since that position has been filled, and it's a very important component to the SAC. So Brian, does CSDE, are they the one who reaches out to that? Brian Klimkowitz, do you know?
We're happy to, yeah, to do that.
Would you do that? That would be greatly appreciated, so that we can have someone represent them. Brian Smith, I see your hand up.
Ironically, and apologies to the membership, I was traveling that day and was unavailable. I think I was like mid-flight, possibly. So, ironically, though, while I was out of the office for 3 days last week, somebody from DOC reached out to me to talk to me regarding DDS services and transition planning for youth exiting DOC. Okay. So I'm just waiting for some feedback. I'll put the name in the chat, or I'll email you, Brian, with who contacted me. That might be a point of entry for the conversation, just because they did hop right in and they are within the school component, the unified district for DOC. So.
Thank you so much, Brian. Okay, anybody else on that topic? Okay. All right, so the membership committee knows that there are some members waiting for their appointment letters from the governor, and the membership committee is working with CSDE and Brian Klimkowitz to secure these. They've been consistently working on this problem. Jolie will be sending out an email to members whose term is expired to see if they would like to continue on the SAC. There will be a membership meeting on April 11th to discuss vacancies, so be on the lookout for Jolie's email if your term is about to expire. Also, we're discussing the possibility of making some of our virtual meetings in the afternoon to accommodate our student members' busy school schedules. We really want to hear the student voice, and I think this might be a solution to how we can get more participation. Okay, great. And then Catherine asked me to bring up the point that there's a need for the membership survey to be on the SAC website. And what the survey is that questionnaire that you filled out when you applied to be a member of the SAC. And Catherine would like the notation on it that interested applicants, I'm reading her quotes, interested applicants can submit anytime. When a position is available, all membership surveys on file will be considered. So that people understand that membership it's on a rolling basis, and they'll be constantly reviewing membership surveys. Is there anyone else that has any comments about the membership? Anyone? No? Wonderful, wonderful. So I hope to see as many people. Oh, and if you know, even if you're not on the membership committee, any new members, feel welcome to join. Just reach out to Jolie. Oh, Representative Comey, I just see your hand up.
Yeah, so I just put it up. So I was wondering if the committee had gotten any feedback from any of the legislators that attended the January in-person meeting at the LOB.
Tom Kosker, would you comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, Robin, I got some feedback back and forth. I forwarded some of those names. I think it's going to require some additional follow-up. Lisa Sumner Seminar, I had expressed interest. Who's the other guy? I have their name somewhere. The guy that's a teacher.
Yeah.
He was there.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Trying to think. We have 3 of them. I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
which one
he's a current teacher. He's on leave from teaching, whatever. But I have a list of people that had kind of gotten back to me that I had reached out to, followed up with that day. They all expressed interest in get me on the list, put me on the list sort of a thing. But, a little short of fully committing to joining, as you know, because you're one of them, how busy you all are. And I believe, Jolie, I think you added a number of them to our distribution list. So at least they'll get be knowledgeable about our meetings and stuff. But I think it's going to require an additional follow-up, maybe from the, membership committee or maybe from me or others. I think that's what's going to be required to just kind of keep pushing them. As you know, now's a tough time. So maybe a follow-up after session, might be a little more prudent. But yeah, that's where we're at. We had a number, I'd say 4 or 5 that expressed some level of interest in either joining or just being involved.
So I'm assuming, at the committee meeting that they will figure out a plan to move forward. And I know because you were in session, that was the difficult part. Sorry, Representative Comey.
We are in session, but while they're in the building and have the business of the legislature on their mind, it might be worth it. Tom, I'd be happy to if you want to come, or Susan, you guys want to come, during the day we're in session, and we can just stand in front of a door before they go in or something like that, and just ask
an ed committee, a little sneak attack on the ed committee or something. Yeah, that's fine. Let's connect offline, Robin, and we can figure something out between the 2 of us and others that might be interested in that. So that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. That's a wonderful suggestion. Now, I don't know about sneak attacks, but wonderful.
Sneak attacks, yeah, they love that.
Okay. Anything else with membership? Anyone have any questions or comments? No? Okay, wonderful. Mr. Jeffrey Spar, would you please take over with the legislative committee report? Jeff? Jeff?
Yeah, me on mute. I'm sorry. I was like out of the box and I was talking. I had unmuted. So what we had done was we had sent a letter in with some comments to the education committee. And one of the things that we wanted to track was also making a proposed change for the notification if a child was placed in restraint or seclusion. As it exists now, it's to be within 24 hours. What we wanted to do was to have it the same day, and to make it not just put a letter in the mail the same day and mail it, have it postmarked, but to make it an effort to have it done, electronically if possible. So I was working with Representative Curry, and also I'm sure that Representative Comey behind the line was behind the scenes was pinching people to get this done. And what we did was I followed up yesterday to see if there's going to be a change in that. Originally, when the proposal was made, they had not included that language, and Representative Curry had promised me that he would make a change. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I was informed by him there's a proposed substitute bill number 5416, and it's in section 10. And what that proposes is that they're going to make the change to make it on the day of. So the way it's proposed to read, it's very short, so I'll read it. Each local or regional board of education shall notify a parent or guardian of a student who is placed in physical restraint or seclusion on the day. But that phrase right there replaces the phrase not later than 24 hours. So the proposal is to make it on the day the student was placed in physical restraint or seclusion, and shall make a reasonable effort to provide such notification immediately after such physical restraint or seclusion is initiated. Here's some additional new language. Such notice shall, if possible, be provided by means of electronic communication, including but not limited to electronic mail or cellular mobile telephone. So we think those are two good things, to have it the day of and also to make it, more of an instant notification.
Is there any discussion? Anyone like to? Representative Comey, you still have, would you want to discuss on this? Because I see your hand up, or is that?
Oh, sorry, my hand, I can tell you next steps if that's helpful.
Yes.
So committee meetings, so that passed out of committee, as Jeff mentioned. And it is, I believe, a House bill. So the next step is to, either one of two things will happen. It'll either get put into like what we call a big aircraft carrier. And so it'll be like, 100-page bill or something like that with all these little bills, inside of it, or it will be a standalone bill if there's, some sort of negotiations that made that happen. And it will get voted on. That is really the last time that changes can be made over the next, I think, Thursday. I think Representative Curry wanted some changes by any education changes by like Thursday or so, tomorrow. So if there's any, language changes, we got to get it over to him, and then he'll get it to the lawyers. And then the only other chance to get anything changed, would be to have it amended on the floor. But that doesn't typically happen unless it's completely controversial. House will vote on it, then it'll go to Senate, and then to the governor's office, to governor's desk.
Was there any wording in there with the request that the recommendation that the SAC made about having that notification be in the language of the parent? Is that there?
That's not in that. I know that was one of the recommendations that we had made, to make it in the language of, and also we might have made reference to sign language in a sense, but that wasn't there. But it's a good first start.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for working on this.
I can ask about that. I mean, I have to send him a couple other bill notes today, so I'm happy to just ask him if he confirmed that he received that. Tell me again what that bill number was, Jeffrey.
5416.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Joby, it was
sorry. That's a lengthy bill. It was Robin, it was section 10 within that.
Wonderful.
Correct. And I was asking Joby, because Joby is the one who spoke on it. The representatives were thinking that was in the is that ESL, English Language Bill of Rights? And
correct.
And you just explained to them that the parents, this child speak English, but not the parents.
Correct. So they mentioned that the EL Multilingual Bill of Rights, that should be covered under that. But I explained that is specific for a child who is an English language learner. So outside of the child being an English language learner, the parents should still have the information in their language if they're the ones who are the English learner.
Thank you. Jeffrey, anything else in legislative?
No, that's it for now. Thank you.
Do you know when the next meeting is?
I have to go back and I have like this pressing thing I'm working on at work.
Okay.
If I have to file, but I have to go and look to see what Jolie has collected as far as their responses from people. I hope to have them on Fridays, but we'll have to see whether some will be in the afternoon. I just haven't had a chance to really collect to look to see when it is. I know it's not this Friday because this is Good Friday, but I'm hoping to get something next week.
Okay.
There's not going to be any movement on this for another several weeks because we are in the appropriations and finance process.
Okay.
So it'll be after the week of the 11th, likely, that's when we start meeting more often.
Okay.
Because we have that school vacation week on the 11th and then that following week, like, I don't remember what week that is, but.
Okay, after April 11th. Okay, that's a good thing to make note of. Okay, next, we are almost on time with our schedule, but next is our roundtable. So could you raise your screen hand if you have any updates from your stakeholders as well as positive aspects of student programming? This includes any unmet needs. You can pass, you don't have to raise your hand. And remember, events are not announced here, but emailed to Jennifer Lucier to be sent to the full SAC. That's been working really well. Okay, I saw Mr. Jeffrey Spar, your hand went up super quick.
Well, so I don't know, you just qualified it by saying events, but I just wanted to announce that next Thursday in Norwalk, we're having the annual Autism Acceptance Program. And what we're going to have is we have on the green at Norwalk, we light up the gazebo blue and we read a proclamation from the governor. In Connecticut, we actually have April is announced as Autism Acceptance Month. And we will have the proclamation read by Senate Majority Leader Bob Duff. We will also have the mayor of the city of Norwalk read a proclamation. We will have police and fire there to show their support, also members of the Board of Education. And then this year, we're going to have the Secretary of State is going to be there to talk about community involvement and voting. So I think that's important for people to become involved. If you're on the spectrum, you can be very much involved and become a part of the whole process. I just wanted to announce that.
Well, that's a super positive aspect of programming. We'll file it under that. Whatever. Okay, wonderful. Who is next? Was it Jane or Jennifer? Jennifer.
Hi, I had to write mine out because it's a little bit longer. It's about language access for our families. So families are still reporting to us that they are not getting their child's IEP translated long after CT SEDS and the new IEP has been implemented statewide with the ability to translate. Families are repeatedly being denied when they request translation of evaluations that will help determine their child's eligibility or continued eligibility for special education and the provision of a free appropriate public education through the student's IEP. Instead, they're being told they will get oral translation of the reports, often by someone who does not know the educational terms or how to interpret the results of the evaluation. We even had a parent recently be given prior written notice outside of a PPT just to say that they were denying their request for translation of evaluations. Other issues that we've been talking about for a long time include not scheduling adequate time for PPTs that require interpretation and lack of appropriate interpretation for families. Language access barriers that are faced by English learner and monolingual parents of children with disabilities cause an enormous inequity of information about educational opportunities for their children and impedes their right to meaningful participation in the planning and placement team process. As an English-speaking parent, I am afforded a written copy of my child's evaluation that I can access at any time before, during, or after a PPT. I would not be able to do that with an oral translation. And as a person who needs to process information visually, I would never be able to recall details of evaluations. Oral translations of evaluations is simply not enough for a parent to be able to effectively advocate for their child. From the experiences of my parent stakeholder group, it appears there is a widespread belief that IDEA is the only law that districts must consider regarding language access in our special education families. There is a need for clear guidance from the CSDE on the responsibilities of the districts to provide language access and how civil rights laws and IDA requirements must be considered together. I can send that to you, Julie, if you want.
Jennifer, where would this fall? Would this fall under LRE? Because it's not really least restrictive environment, it's access. And okay, so we might need to look at priorities and recommendations. Right. Oh, someone just zipped off. Okay, anyone else? Okay, oh, I'm sorry, Jane, sorry.
I'm gonna piggyback on Jen. She went deep, and I'm gonna share our trends and unmet needs, and she overlaps with them. What we're finding is that as a global statewide agency, looking at the issues that rise to the surface, we get hundreds of calls in a month, but these are the things that are trending. Students with dyslexia are not always being identified or making progress in their reading attempts. It seems to be due to lack of staff knowledge in specialized reading instruction. At least that's how it's reported to us. Students with behavioral issues have two facts against them. Right now, they're either being excluded from learning due to exclusionary discipline procedures, and that's sometimes due to staff not understanding the purpose or appropriate use of the procedures. Students with behavioral challenges are also being more outplaced as often as they can be. There's a lot of full placements, but that's often due to staff not understanding all their behavioral support options and being well trained to use them. And lastly, students with parents who don't speak or read English, as Jennifer just spoke about, are losing equitable educational opportunities due to a lack of staff knowledge and effort to provide things in their language. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kosker?
Yeah, good morning again, and thank you. So as you can imagine, I've been quite busy with the High Road report that you mentioned earlier. It's been quite a project for me. So I just wanted to highlight a little bit of that. Again, I know you all have gotten copies of this sent to you. The full report, which I acknowledge is super long and no one is likely to read, the executive summary itself is actually like 9.5 pages. So that'll be challenge enough to get you to read, but I urge you to take a few minutes and read that. But I'll just kind of highlight a little bit. So, the Office of the Child Advocate and Disability Rights Connecticut engaged in an investigation over the last 2 years plus into High Road schools, based on some complaints that OCA had received in the past regarding different aspects of services at High Road schools. So between the two of us, the investigation team, between the two agencies, we did a number of site visits. Overall, at the time, there were 8 schools there. Now there are less because they've since closed one of their schools. We've done site visits, we did record reviews, we did individual student record reviews. We did a lot of work on the investigation side. We spoke with CSDE, we spoke with High Road schools, we spoke with sending districts, including Hartford Public Schools, which is one of the larger, not one of the largest sender of students to High Road schools. There's just over 300 students in the High Road schools altogether, and about 80 of them are sent by, roughly 80 are sent by the Hartford Public Schools. So none of the stuff I'm going to say is anything that's not already in the executive summary and report. I just wanted to share a little bit with all the stakeholders here because we have such a broad range and wide reach of stakeholders. But some of the findings that we made were regarding staffing issues. There were a number of staffing issues. One being uncertified staff, non-certified staff, teaching students, and overuse of long-term subs, often non-credentialed long-term subs, and overuse of durational shortage area permits, the DSAPs, again, often non-certified, which are non-certified staff, but often non-credentialed. So there are a lot of issues around staffing that we realized. Again, most of the students that go to High Road schools are there for behavior challenges, or autism. They have often a diagnosis of autism or emotional disability. So those are kind of the population that's served by that school. And just a lot of issues with individualized programming, individualized behavior plans, Again, this is all outlined in the report, but just to highlight it. And then our other two kind of big findings were a lack of oversight by Connecticut State Department of Ed, and a lack of oversight and monitoring by sending school districts. So those are kind of the big buckets of issues that we learned, and that we reported on. And if you were watching the news or paying attention to the news, you may have seen it, spread out across the news a couple weeks ago. But yeah, that's kind of the scoop. We also, presented a number of recommendations, which is really where I think the SAC comes in, right? And I highlighted it earlier in regards to the other ad hoc group that we're looking at forming, which is, knowing the role and understanding the role of the SAC, and as a group of a wide range of stakeholders who would report to State Department of Ed and potentially legislature as well, as far as recommendations, right, and guidance and advice. So I would encourage the SAC members to look at our report that we issued, look at the recommendations. We have recommendations specifically to State Department of Ed listed in there. We also have recommendations specifically for potential legislation, though I will highlight there, because it's my obligation, that Disability Rights Connecticut cannot promote legislation. OCA did suggest legislative suggestions, but Disability Rights Connecticut cannot encourage legislative changes, although we can say that the recommendations made by OCA would benefit students with disabilities in Connecticut. So that's my disclaimer. So when my boss checks on me, I've done my job and disclaimed that part. So yeah, so anyway, that's that. I'm happy to answer questions. I don't want to get into a big, long question and answer period, but happy to answer questions, here or later, or via email, or, phone call. And I'd also be available to, OCA has offered, and Virginia's on the call today. And, we're available to present more information to the SAC if the SAC so decided that they wanted to hear more about this report and what we have done. Again, there's been a lot of different reports over the years on different issues around education. We don't always hear about all of them, but I felt it makes sense for me to share this with you today. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else? Roundtable? No? Yes.
Thank you very much, Tom, and Virginia, certainly, for your work on this. It was great to see your names. Not great to see the report, but certainly great to see your names leading the efforts to analyze what's going on there. I was just wondering, sort of on an aside, if you guys would be willing just to meet with me and my intern. I have her sort of working on this project and going with a fine-tooth comb, and maybe we could, come have a little meeting on the side like you just offered, to answer any questions we have or to learn more.
Yeah, of course, we'd be happy to. Virginia and I I'll get an email together for us to have that conversation. I know Virginia and Sarah Egan over at in her house have reached out and spoken with Jeff Curry as well. Virginia, do you have anything to add? I don't know if she can add it.
Yeah, I just wanted to, just reiterate what Tom just said. Yeah, we'd be glad to meet with you, of course.
Thanks, Robin.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anything else for Roundtable? No. Okay. Now we have the BSE update, Bureau of Special Education.
Susan, I'll go ahead and share my screen here with you all. Is that coming through okay?
I don't.
Now, there we go.
Yes, there we go.
All right. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you all this morning. And as always, the expertise in this room is really phenomenal, and very much appreciate the updates and the information that was shared up to this point in time. I don't have a lot of slides today, but I'll go through. And as always, if you have any questions, just Susan, let me know, because I can't see all the folks. But if there's a hand up or anything, just stop me along the way. So this is our current team here at the State Department of Education. And as you're all aware, we have three different distinct yet interactive departments within our Bureau. one around communications and funding, program improvement, and our due process unit. So we are during the last year's legislative session, there were actually 4 positions that were legislatively budgeted and required within the Bureau of Special Education. And we are in various stages of posting those positions. There are, with a focus on secondary transition, as well as our due process activities, specifically our mediators and our mediation process. So we have 2 associate education consultant positions where the posting just ended last Monday. And so we had 137 applicants, so that's wonderful. We're in the process of following up with those applicants to ensure that they have the minimum requirements and then the preferred qualities and preferred attributes that we're hoping to have join the team. And so we will be conducting interviews once that process happens. We also have a position called the Bureau Chief. So I was originally hired at the State Department of Education as the Bureau Chief before my shift to being the division director at the State Department of Education. So bringing in another managerial level bureau chief who will assist in the oversight and management of a lot of different activities. We're very excited. That posting should be available, should be up within the week. And we also, in addition to that, we have 2 education specialists. So at the State Department of Education, we have education specialists, associate education consultants, and consultants. Those are the 3 tiers for what's called our P3A union. And so in that entry level of ed specialists, we have 2 individuals that will be coming, and that posting is shortly there behind the bureau chief position. So again, very excited to having extended capacity at the State Department. We also have another associate education consultant posting following the 2 ed consultants. And so we'll be sharing information as new staff come on board between now and the next school year. I'll be sure to keep you up to date. I did mention mediators earlier. Currently, Kirsten Dovenberg oversees our mediation process. We just recently hired 6 new mediators to join the 3 mediators that we had on staff for a total of 9. And part of the requirements last year within legislation also was a design of onboarding, if you will, or training before new mediators start. So we have a comprehensive program before mediators, including being able to work alongside our more veteran mediators to ensure that those standards of training are met. They've already begun the 40 hours of training as of last Wednesday. So we're really excited to have, and just so folks know, these are independent contractors. They're not members of the Bureau of Special Education. So you're all familiar with our different general monitoring and supervision activities. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things for you. We had some, we know we have as a state much work to be done around chronic absenteeism. I do like to share the positive aspects of the work that are happening across the state as well. We've seen a substantial reduction in the rates of chronic absenteeism from January of last year to this January. By grade level, you can see the grade level across the bottom there. We do know, however, that students with disabilities are disproportionately chronically absent as compared to typical peers. So although overall, in general, we're making progress, we are making progress as well for students with disabilities, but we need to be able to close those gaps, specifically around those students that have challenges social, emotionally, and with behavior. So we continue to work on that. If you recall, we've added that indicator within the local district annual performance report, so their determinations factor in each individual LEA chronic absenteeism rates for students with disabilities. And we know there's work to be done, and that shines a spotlight on that issue. So we've been working with districts and understanding the plans and how they're accessing not only state level supports, but local community supports to be able to impact, because we know when students are not in school, they're not accessing the high quality education and making progress towards goals and objectives. So we are making progress, but we want to see those lines continue to move down and to be addressed. This graphic we like to show about how all the different components of our general monitoring and supervision system are integrated. Last month, or during our last meeting, we shared with you the general supervision vision, and how we worked on crafting that language with a variety of stakeholders, including our LEA advisory, with you all, as well as with our special populations group. So if you do have comments on the vision, please let us know. We have started to use that language in all of our different activities, including our integrated monitoring activities, which we are in process with. Here's another, I used this slide last month. In case you didn't have a chance to review it, please take a look at the language and let us know your thoughts. Let us know if it captures, we had some basic foundational concepts that we wanted to promote within general supervision in our activities. So we're open to and willing to receive feedback on that statement. And wanted to, as I mentioned, integrated monitoring. We have started our on-site random unannounced on-site visits for school districts. We have during the last couple of months, we visited 3 school districts and have plans to continue 5 additional programs between now and the end of the school year. And you can see the components. We want to thank CERC for helping us with capacity and being on site, as well as the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, who's helping with our interviews of parents and questionnaires that we're asking of parents within those districts as well. So we send communication out to the parents in the districts to let them know what the process is, why the process is happening, that these districts were not chosen for any particular reason, that they were randomly selected, and the activities that will be engaged in. In addition to parent interviews, we also do staff interviews as well, and collect that information to be able to share back with the district administrators, and are doing on-site classroom visits with a particular focus on least restrictive environment and verification of services. There is a review of IEPs also from randomly selected students within the districts. We've heard very positive feedback from the districts who we've been engaged with for this activity, and we'll look to continue to improve our process as we move into the year 2. Just a couple of notes on early childhood outcomes. This is a slide we've used previously with you all to help you understand what it is that we're looking for with indicator 7 for our state performance plan called early childhood outcomes. There are 3 outcome areas that you can see on your screen there. And then we have summary statements that we report to on a regular basis to the Office of Special Education Programs every February on the targets that are set within this context. We are in the process of transitioning from the Brigance to the DOTS, which is the Documentation Observation for Teaching System. Sorry about the typo there for 202. We do not have 202 districts as part of our pilot. There are 19, so we'll make sure that we adjust that before we share that out. But we do have a pilot for school districts that are already using DOTS. Those of you familiar with early childhood know that the Office of Early Childhood in Part C also utilizes the DOTS before students come in. We also believe that the DOTS will be more meaningful for our early childhood teams, so it's not just a data point to report to the federal government. It's also helpful in having teams write meaningful goals and objectives that are aligned with the early learning development standards for our youngest learners. So we would like to thank the RESC Alliance for supporting this activity. We'd like to thank the Office of Early Childhood as well. And we are probably will have a formal presentation on this for you all this spring at some point prior to the end of the year, just to let you know how the pilot's going. We look to do this statewide transition again for meaningful outcomes. It's the assessments given when a student enters pre-K and when they exit pre-K. So, and then the growth in those 3 areas previously. We are looking to implement this not next school year, but the school year thereafter statewide. In the meantime, we have a schedule of training and support for districts to help support them within the transition. Speaking of early learning development standards, you're probably familiar with when CT SEDS rolled out, we talked about the new IEP with goals aligning to standards in the state. So this is something that will be rolled out during the next school year, 24-25. It's already been built into the system, but it's been phased in. So we've turned that feature off within CT SEDS as our statewide educators and parents have been acclimating to the system. And so with year 3 in 24-25, there will be a drop-down menu containing standards related to math and ELA. So ELA also includes reading and writing. And so those goals will be aligned to grade level standards. And then for our youngest learners, for the ELTs.
Brian, can I interrupt you?
Please.
And maybe you're going to get there, but what about standards for behavior and transition? What are the resources for those?
The alignment within the system are only for those 3 areas. So we have reading, writing, ELA, math, and early learning development standards. So there's no requirement or grade level behavioral components for our core standards. These are for academics. And so, folks that are looking for, developmental type milestones and so forth, we do have some resources and documents, but within the system and within the goals that are academic related, that's tied to IDA requirements. And so that's where we are with this initial rollout.
Missy has
something. I'm sorry, let me just follow up. Is it something you're planning or it's just not on the radar?
Not on the radar as far as on the IEP within the functional goals and objectives.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. I have Missy and Lori have their hands up. Missy?
Yeah, just a clarification, Brian.
Sure.
For the academic standards, I think it's important to note that they're anchor standards that are doing, that we're utilizing for the goals, and nowhere on the IEP are we going to see grade level standards for students. And so the anchor standards are that global aspect of the standard area. So I think that's important to note, especially for our students with more significant disabilities.
I could just comment, Missy. So they are grade level standards. They're anchor standards for that grade level.
Right.
And for our students with significant, cognitive challenges and other needs, there is a requirement to have those goals aligned with grade level standards. So that's why I'm emphasizing it. There are anchor standards that are tied to those grade level standards, but schools and districts would keep those high expectations for students and scaffold that information in those areas of reading, writing, math, and early learning development standards.
Yes, and I'm excited about that because I think sometimes we don't do that. And I'm going to put in my 2 cents, and I think that transition standards need to be in there because they are extremely important. So those are just my 2 cents, and I'll just leave it at that. So thank you.
Thanks, Missy. Yeah, we have ties and links to the transition, the core transition standards. Yeah.
And that's good. And I'm excited about that. So, but it's still,
Before we go to Lori, Brian, could you quickly explain the difference between anchor standards and grade level standards?
It's a different level, so I won't do this justice, but within our Common Core standards, there's different levels of information as you kind of pare down to the specific grade level standards. So what I can do is send you a template that I think might be helpful. The anchor standard is more umbrella and general, and the grade level specific standards, for example, around comprehension are very specific.
Okay.
So
All
what
right.
will appear on the IEP, as Missy stated, is the anchor level standard that's more general and encompassing versus a very specific skill, which also makes sense because we're talking about the goals, not the objectives within the IEP. That's a very important distinction.
All right. Thank you so much. Lori?
You're welcome.
Thank you. Brian, I was just curious if there was a plan to phase in a broader, a way for parents to actually receive from CTSAS more than just the existing or the current IEP. Essentially, they get it from the district, as they're approving things, but ultimately they really don't have a way to access everything else. They have to go through the district to get it. And I've just been hearing a lot of concern around that.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, we can talk more about the parent portal and what it is and what it isn't and what the functionality is. I think it's helpful to clarify. But as documents are finalized within the system, they're sent to the parent portal where the parent would have access, as you're saying, with real time, and current documents. And then those documents are archived. So the next time the parent comes back, they're going to see those documents, cumulatively across years. So there is a way to click on last year's documents that were sent in CTSADS and the year after and the year after. So those will be sorted and, kind of compile over time. They're not the comprehensive records that students have if you contact the district and say, I would like every document related to, my son or daughter's IEP, or special education records, unless the district, uploads those documents and takes the time to do that. So the system the parent portal is designed as a flow of communication from the district based on the documents that are generated in the system and will accumulate over time through the years.
Okay. Is there some training that I could point them to as I'm hearing this? Maybe
Sure.
that's part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, we have a video that's it's a 5-minute video overview of the parent portal and mostly on access and, kind of the basic components. But I think as we enter year 2, you're bringing up a good point that parents may not be aware of or how to navigate once they're in the system. And so now that we're in the, year 2 and year 3, we can look at the current resources we have. In the meantime, we have a 2.5-page overview of accessing the parent portal and then a short video.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Susan, thank you. Any other hands
That's
up?
it. I didn't know if you had any more slides. Nope.
Yeah,
Any
you have a couple
questions?
more.
Oh, yeah, a couple more. Great. Then let's keep going.
Sorry, just want to mention quickly, we have a stipend that's available for LEAs that was just launched a couple weeks ago. They have up until mid-April to be able to apply for paraeducator training. So each district will receive $5,000 at the local level to support paraeducator training. And that would if you do recall, there's an 18-hour requirement for paraeducator training. And those training topics aren't related to the basic kind of bloodborne pathogens, if you will, and some of those other required. So this would be specifically around the roles that they have within the district. Additionally, we have some additional dollars for for LEAs around secondary transition students. These dollars can be applied for any costs related to students age 14 all the way through 22, of which are eligible to the end of the school year in which they turn 22. And those numbers that you see in that middle column there reflect the number of IEPs for students who are receiving secondary transition services. So even though they're smaller amounts for our, smaller districts, they are helpful to the LEAs as there, the legislation changed, but there were no additional dollars for LEAs to support students who, that additional year, potentially full year up to, as little as an additional, whenever they turned at the end of the school year for which they turned 22. So, we'll keep you up to date on the themes that we receive around training at the local level, as well as the districts who have applied for those funds and received them. That's it, Susan. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, great. All right, so this is the end of our meeting, unless anybody has any other comments on the presentation or questions. Okay, great. So our next meeting is April 24th. It's a 9 to 1 p.m. In-person meeting, but we will still have the virtual meeting link. So would somebody please make a motion to adjourn this meeting? Anybody?
So moved by Missy.
Thank you, Missy. A second, please.
Second.
Great. Adjournment, we don't need to do all in favor for adjournment. So adjournment at 10:24 a.m. Wow, new record for us. Thank you, everybody.